The long-awaited finale of the silo has finally arrived, and like many American TV shows that start strong but lose steam, this completely exceeded expectations. In this season, Julie returns to her original silo, which is now in the middle of a massive rebellion. When people see Julie on the surveillance monitors, they're stunned. Julie then tries to force open the silo's heavy door with a crowbar, but it doesn't budge. Suddenly, the door opens automatically, and she steps inside. To her surprise, she's greeted by Mayor Bernard, who's armed and waiting. This scene is suspenseful, but let's pause here. To understand the shocking twists ahead, we need to break down the key events leading up to this moment. The rebels' plan is straightforward: connect the passageways between the silo sections. However, their real goal is to distract Bernard's forces while planting explosives on the generator to force his hand. The operation is risky and could plunge the silo into darkness, but they have no other choice. Knox stresses that secrecy is critical. Unfortunately, Bernard is already watching them through surveillance and hears everything. He quickly sends reinforcements to arrest the rebels and secure the generator room. The mayor's special ops team moves fast. They lure some of the rebels away by creating a diversion, then ambush them. Despite putting up a fight, Knox, Shirley, and others are captured. Bernard secures another victory without even being there, smugly clutching the vault key. But things aren't as simple as they seem. The focus shifts to Rob, who once met privately with Sheriff Billings and helped him deliver a letter. If Bernard were to discover this, Rob's entire family could face severe consequences. To protect themselves, they begin planning an escape. Rob's wife, Camille, suggests that the only way to ensure their safety is to get into the vault. All three of them must hide there. Meanwhile, all the rebels are locked up in a makeshift prison inside the cafeteria. Not long after, Knox, Shirley, Walker, and others are taken by Bernard's special ops team to the police station, where Walker's wife is also being held. Bernard specifically orders that they be locked up together. Surprisingly, however, Walker isn't detained. Instead, he receives a text from the Justice Department. At that moment, everyone realizes the shocking truth: Walker is the traitor. On another front, Dr. Ian continues tending to the wounded. He's desperate to move the injured upstairs because a large stash of explosives has been discovered in the lower levels. The generator is surrounded by explosives, and the noise from the machinery is deafening. After careful inspection, the lead officer notices that the detonation wires aren't connected and warns everyone to avoid accidental triggers. When Walker arrives at Bernard's office, he's welcomed as a hero for helping suppress the rebellion. However, Walker then reveals a shocking secret. Due to the constant noise in the mechanical department, they've developed a complex system of hand signals over the years, allowing them to communicate silently. Bernard is still smug, but Walker drops a bombshell. He tells Bernard that everything he saw on the surveillance footage was deliberately staged for him to see. When Knox met with Walker earlier, Walker used hand signals to warn him they were being monitored. Hearing this, Bernard panics. Walker begins a countdown from 5 to 1. Bernard frantically looks around, his eyes darting toward the clock. Just then, a subordinate bursts in with good news. The bombs have been successfully disarmed. As Bernard starts to breathe a sigh of relief, Walker pulls out a bag and dumps its contents onto the table: police badges. Realization dawns on Bernard just as a deafening explosion rocks the building. It turns out that Ian wasn't escorting wounded people. He was smuggling detonators. They had already rigged explosives along the stairwell. Before the operation, Ian removed his watch and handed it to a nearby man, instructing him, "If Julie is still alive, give this to her and tell her I love her." Once the man retreats to the upper levels, Ian lights the fuse, fully prepared to sacrifice himself. In that final moment, he closes his eyes and ignites the explosives. The explosion is massive, destroying the stairs between floors 90 and 92 and trapping all the special ops team members in the lower levels. But the real rebellion is just beginning. At the police station, Sheriff Billings, Knox, and others are released by sympathetic officers. They immediately head to the cafeteria to free the prisoners, armed with makeshift weapons and chanting, "Tell us the truth." Watching the angry mob approach, Bernard is overwhelmed with panic. With no one left to protect him upstairs, he desperately orders his subordinates to find reinforcements. Just then, Lucas suddenly appears before him. It turns out that after Lucas discovered the tunnel in the lower levels, he uncovered a shocking truth. Everyone in the silo has been under constant surveillance by the computer system. Lucas immediately left the tunnel to inform the mayor, but was captured halfway by the special ops team and locked up in the cafeteria with the other rebels. Upon finding Bernard, Lucas quickly warns him to remain silent and pretend they're having an ordinary conversation, as they might still be under surveillance. One wrong word could cost them their lives. Then, Lucas reveals the startling truth he uncovered after cracking the code. Stunned, Bernard struggles to process what he's just heard. Lucas adds, "This is why former Judge Meadows refused to continue as your apprentice and why I resigned." Lucas leaves, leaving Bernard dazed. Later, while walking up the stairs, Bernard spots Rob and makes a sudden, drastic decision. He announces that Rob is now his new apprentice, handing over the key and revealing the password, 552039. Bernard then rushes to the cleaning department, grabs a protective suit, and pushes through the crowd to the police station. Once there, he fires shots at the ceiling to scatter the others, before sitting alone in the center of the station. Outside, the rebellion rages on, splitting the crowd into two factions. One side wants to capture Bernard, while the other insists it's not the right time. The disagreement escalates into a violent clash in the cafeteria, until a figure suddenly appears on the screen. It's Julie, but her return hasn't been smooth. In another silo, after uniting everyone, Julie's first priority is to put on a protective suit and return to her original silo. Meanwhile, Julie overhears her parents discussing survival issues within the silo. When Soro approaches the table, he discovers a note that reads, "Safeguard Protocol." The words immediately trigger his alarm. He urgently calls Julie over, explaining that this matter concerns the life or death of everyone in the silo. Soro recalls something critical his parents once mentioned, revealing the truth about the Safeguard Protocol. It's not some complex system. It's a real pipe connected from the outside into the silo, filled with enough gas to kill everyone inside. Soro continues, explaining that his parents initially managed to seal off the pipe and even safely exited the silo. At first, the outside world was safe, and people survived, but for unknown reasons, people began dying shortly afterward. After rummaging through the documents on the table, they locate the exact position of the pipe, level 14 of the silo. As Julie and Soro prepare to head to level 14, a sudden, violent tremor shakes the area. Soro immediately realizes something is terribly wrong. Another silo must be in trouble. He tells Julie he needs to leave immediately. They rush back to the vault to retrieve the protective suits, only to find them riddled with holes from rat bites. Now, the only usable suit is the makeshift one Julie created using various materials. Just then, the suit and Soro vanishes. Panicking, Julie shouts for Soro and eventually finds him outside in the water reservoir. Soro emerges from the water, telling Julie that he's sealed the gloves with tape. If the suit can hold up underwater without leaking, it means it can withstand the toxic gas. After a brief farewell, her figure appears on the silo's main screen. As the door opens, she quickly steps inside. However, just as she approaches the entrance, a figure in a protective suit emerges. It's Bernard. He holds a gun, pointed directly at Julie. But through their conversation, it becomes clear that Bernard isn't intending to harm Julie. Instead, he plans to end his own life. Having just learned the horrifying truth about the Safeguard Protocol, Bernard is completely shattered. He finally understands that the system was designed to kill everyone in the silo at any moment, making him feel as though all his years of maintaining the silo were meaningless. At this critical moment, Julie tells Bernard an important piece of news. She has found a way to shut down the Safeguard Protocol. They must immediately return to the silo and disable it before the gas is released. Before she can finish speaking, the door behind them begins to close slowly. The massive door seals shut, trapping Julie inside. Moments later, a fiery explosion erupts from within. With this, the main storyline comes to an end, leaving Julie's fate uncertain. Meanwhile, Rob, along with his wife and child, enters the long-desired vault. Inside, they encounter the intelligent robot. When Rob expresses his desire to save the silo, the robot presents a cruel condition. If Rob wants to save the silo, he and his child must leave. Only his wife can stay. This twist seems to set the stage for Season 3. Just then, the scene takes a shocking turn. The long-lost outside world suddenly appears. However, this world isn't entirely safe either. Before entering buildings, people must undergo radiation scans. Through snippets of conversation among passers-by, a stunning truth is revealed. The United States had been hit by nuclear weapons launched by an opposing faction, and they're now discussing countermeasures. The name of this plan? The Silo Project. With this revelation, Season 2 comes to a close. This unexpected ending not only unravels many mysteries, but also raises even more questions.